They then came to me, what do you think of waterboarding? I said, it's fine. And if we want to go stronger, I'd go stronger too. Because frankly, that's the way I feel. Can you imagine these people, these animals over in the Middle East that chop off heads, sitting around talking and seeing that we're having a hard problem with waterboarding? We should go for waterboarding, and we should go tougher than waterboarding.
But targeting terrorist families?
I'm a leader. I've always been a leader. I've never had any problem leading people. If I say do it, they're going to do it. That's what leadership is all about.
That was Donald Trump last night insisting that if he becomes president and commander-in-chief and orders our military to waterboard terrorists or kill their families, they will do it, even though to do so would be illegal. Then today we started to see serious pushback from some members of both the intelligence and military communities. And Mr. Trump reversed himself on a long-held position. In moments, we will hear from combat veterans Pete Hegseth and Carl Higbie on this issue. But first, Trace Gallagher reports on what Trump's team is saying now. Trace?
And Megan, since at least early December, Donald Trump has said when it comes to terror suspects, he would do, quote, a hell of a lot more than waterboarding, telling Fox News that authorizing the military to kill family members of terrorists was a necessary deterrent, and telling ABC News that perhaps he would also chop off heads. Despite being reminded that his orders could result in war crimes charges against military members, their superiors, and the U.S. government, Trump has maintained his position. Former CIA Director Michael Hayden told Bill Maher the military would simply refuse Trump's order. Listen.
You are not committed. You're not required. In fact, you're required not to follow an unlawful order. That would be in violation of all the international laws of armed conflict.
Experts say the "I was only following orders" defense has been rejected since Nuremberg. But during last night's debate, Donald Trump indicated the military would do as he tells them. Watch.
They won't refuse. They're not going to refuse me, believe me. If I say do it, they're going to do it. That's what leadership is all about.
Trump has insisted for months he won't back down. Now he's backing down, saying in part, quoting here, "I will not order a military officer to disobey the law. It is clear that as president, I will be bound by laws just like all Americans, and I will meet those responsibilities." The ranking Democrat on the House Intel Committee, Adam Schiff, now wants Trump to disavow torture altogether. Megan.
Trace, thanks. Joining me now, Pete Hegseth, an Afghanistan and Iraq war veteran, also a Fox News contributor, and Carl Higbie, a former Navy SEAL. Good to see you both. And so why, Pete, do you think we saw the reversal today, even though Mr. Trump's held this position for months now?
Well, I'm glad he reversed it, but it's typical Trump. All bluster, very little substance. He talks a tough game, but then when pressed on it, he's an armchair tough guy. I hate to say it, but this is a guy who said that John McCain is not a war hero, yet he sought his own 5 military deferments because he says big, blustery things that people want to hear after 7 years of mom jeans from Barack Obama, who refuses to fight the enemy and, frankly, has restrictive rules of engagement that hurt our men and women on the battlefield. But he goes way too far, and then when the military says, we won't follow illegal orders like torture or killing families, which is not loosening the rules of engagement, he suddenly realizes, wait, I might actually be commander-in-chief. And the problem here is that voters don't know whether you get the bluster Trump, or which is the armchair tough guy, or you get the one who walks it back on a statement now and says, no, 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 I'll follow the law.
You know, Carl, General Michael Hayden, who ran the NSA and the CIA, came out and said, this is a dangerous position. He's not a Trump supporter. He said, this is dangerous. And, you know, for him to have been holding this position for months, that he was going to command our troops as commander-in-chief to go out there and violate the law, is just unacceptable. Your thoughts?
Well, I think Trump made it very clear that he wasn't going to violate the law, and I think as he understands
more and more about this...
No, but the point
is, up until last night on that debate stage,
right,
he said he was.
Right, and you were talking about what's dangerous. What's dangerous is fighting a war with our hands tied behind our backs, where our enemy can chop off your head, send it home in a box, but our troops on the ground can't fight with our hands tied behind their back. I mean, what's dangerous right now is the fact that we're fighting an enemy with diplomatic principles that just aren't conducive to winning a war. That's what's dangerous.
But, you know, the critics say, okay, so if under Barack Obama we're over here, you know, the rules of engagement are stifling and the troops they have to fight with one hand tied behind their back, is the answer really to go over here? You know, completely the opposite way, past the point where we're obeying the laws, but we're fighting aggressively, Carl.
But what we need is a leader like Donald Trump to change the laws, and I think that's what he's coming around to right now.
You can't change the Geneva
comments.
Convention. Donald Trump is not going to be changing the Geneva Convention, which prevents that
I think
stuff.
a true leader can definitely lobby for it, and I think he's going to lobby on behalf of our troops.
Carl.
Megan, our troops are coming home in body
Don't
bags
talk
right now
nonsense.
because
Let's
of rules
keep
of
it
engagement.
real. Let's keep it in a real debate. I mean, you can defend Donald Trump's, pro-military positions, but you can't defend. Like, Pete, you tell me, is there any chance on God's green earth of Trump getting in there and changing the Geneva Convention?
No, but he can get lawyers out of the way. But I'll tell you, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and others have said they'll get rid of the lawyers too. Here's the problem with Trump. He says, go ahead and kill the families. Go ahead and torture. Go ahead and go further than waterboarding. What happens when people follow those orders or don't follow them? It's not clear that Donald Trump will have their back. Donald Trump is oftentimes about Donald Trump. And so if you're not changing the law and you're just saying it, you create even more ambiguity.
Well, even if he had their back, they'd be in
spot.
trouble. I mean, you tell me. I had a dad stop me in an airport this morning, Carl, and say, my son is going to West Point next year. He's 17 years old. He's 18. And they asked him during the interview, if you're given an order you know to be illegal, do you follow it? And he said, even my 17-year-old knew the answer had to be, no, I will not, because your duty is to the country and to the Constitution and to uphold the law, even if you're given an illegal order. And his point to me was, how can my 17-year-old know that, and the man who wants to be commander-in-chief not?
So what I think Trump is meaning by this is he's not going to commit to a foreign war. You've heard him talk out about Iraq. He's not going to commit to a foreign war unless we have the ability to go in there and actually fight this war to win. Because if you're unwilling to be as ruthless as your enemy, you've already lost.
But what about American ideals? I mean, we don't chop off the heads of our enemy. We don't murder their families. I mean, what the other side is saying, Pete, is we don't sacrifice who we are as a country just because we are at war, as ugly as war is.
You don't have to sacrifice who you are in order to prosecute a war ruthlessly. This is where Carl is right. We have tied our hands. We aren't willing to viciously eliminate the enemy. And Carl is one of those brave warriors who has done that and frankly faced criticism for it. We need a commander-in-chief that will back them up. But that you can go too far with that and put your warriors in a place where they're compromising their own principles, which is never what America has been about. So you can go after them, viciously attack them and find them where they are and do what we need to do to defeat our enemies. What Donald Trump is doing here, though, creates more complications, I think, on the back end for a lot of our folks.
Well, and just to be clear, again, it was in Trace's report, but Trump's statement today is that he does understand the U.S. is bound by laws and treaties. He won't order the military or other officials to violate the laws. He will not order a military officer to disobey the law. Great to see you guys, both.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Megan.